A group of urban explorers decided to break into an old psychiatric hospital that had been abandoned for decades. The locals warned them not to go, but they didn't listen. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they stepped inside, only to find a place frozen in time. Patient files scattered on the floor, rusted wheelchairs in the hallways. Everything felt off, like time had stopped. Then, suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing down the corridor. It was a scream so chilling, it sounded like someone was dying. But when they rushed to the room it came from, they found nothing. The room appeared normal, yet the air was ice cold, and an overwhelming sense of unease filled them. One of the explorers heard a whisper, soft but clear. "You shouldn't be here." Panicked, they rushed to leave, but the door slammed shut behind them. They tried to force it open, but it wouldn't budge. They never spoke about that night again. However, weeks later, one of the explorers woke up with deep scratch marks on his arms, as though something, or someone, had followed him home. Another terrifying event took place in 1987 at a hospital morgue. Claire, a night shift nurse, had just received a body, an old man whose death was shrouded in mystery. His body was covered in deep claw marks, as if something had attacked him. Later that night, while she was alone in the morgue, the lights began to flicker, and then she saw it. A tall, dark figure stood at the end of the hallway, motionless. Claire froze in fear. It had no face, no eyes, just a hollow black void where its face should be. The air grew thick and heavy with a foul, decaying scent. Claire felt a sense of dread unlike anything she'd ever experienced before. Suddenly, the lights went out completely. When they flickered back on, the body she had just received was gone. The next morning, Claire never worked another night shift. The hospital shut down 2 years later, after multiple reports of shadowy figures haunting the halls. Some said the hospital was cursed, and whatever was inside never left. In another abandoned hospital, there was one room that everyone feared, room 502. No one knew why, but the nurses and staff all whispered about it. The rule was simple: never enter room 502. One night, a janitor named Daniel decided to break the rule. He opened the door, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The bed was neatly made, but the covers were sunken in, as if someone invisible was still lying there. The fourth bag swayed slightly, even though there was no wind, and then the temperature dropped to an unbearable cold. Daniel turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind him. He banged on it, screaming for help, but no one came. Then a soft voice whispered from the darkness, "Stay with me." The next morning, the nurses found Daniel collapsed outside room 502. His hair had turned completely white, and he didn't speak a word ever again. The hospital closed soon after, but room 502, it still waits for its next visitor. And then there's the story of Dr. Edward, an old doctor who worked at a now abandoned hospital. Dr. Edward had been a well-respected doctor in the intensive care unit. However, a strange event occurred when a patient died under mysterious circumstances while under Dr. Edward's care. After the incident, he became distant and began to isolate himself from his colleagues. He stopped coming to work altogether, and soon after, rumors began to spread about strange occurrences around the hospital. A group of researchers once decided to explore the abandoned building, and when they entered Dr. Edward's former office, they noticed something strange. An old chair, positioned perfectly by the desk, had a notebook resting on it, but when they stepped closer, they realized the chair was empty, yet the notebook was still there. Suddenly, they felt a chill in the air, and then, in the dead silence, they heard it. A low, mournful cry. It seemed to come from nowhere, surrounding them, echoing in the empty halls. They tried to leave, but the atmosphere felt oppressive. The door slammed shut, and one by one the researchers found themselves unable to speak. But only one made it out. The others vanished. When they found the survivor, he was completely white-haired, his face etched with terror, and he could not speak a word. The hospital shut down shortly after, but many believe that Dr. Edwards' ghost still wanders those halls. No one knows exactly what happened to him, but it seems that whatever evil took hold of him, it still lingers in the walls of that hospital. These stories are just a few examples of the chilling reality of abandoned hospitals. They are places that once offered healing, but now serve as resting places for spirits that never found peace. Sometimes these hospitals are more than just buildings. They become tombs for lost souls. Have you ever stepped into an abandoned hospital? Did you feel a presence watching you? Let us know your stories in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more terrifying tales. Until next time, if you dare.